First, let me also thank Kathy and organizer for making this possible. I think it's very heartening and encouraged to see that virtual, hybrid, and physical meetings are now taking place in Singapore, where we can have like-minded partners to really come together and discuss and to share our experiences in digitalization. Today's topic, Kathy asked me to mention about Maritime Digitalisation Playbook, which many of you might be also familiar, but I will take the time also to share with the virtual audience. We have Steen, who is part of the playbook, and now T.S. Teo, who is now also championing it on behalf of SSA DTC. Thank you so much for all the support. Maybe I'll set, and Peter has already done a fantastic job in setting the backdrop of the why, the trends, the keywords, for 2020 and 2021. So, and I will not belabor the point. I think many of our audiences would reckon and be familiar with many of these trends, whether it's COVID related or not. Yeah. Would you see Galaxy? Yes, please. Okay. So I think there are many trends that is on the screen here that many will recognize. And I think that in where we have observed in whole of 2020, these are also very pertinent issues that are facing maritime and also other sectors in the supply chain. So it is a very good reminder to all of us that maritime is actually part of a global supply chain, and that we need to all do our best to make sure the goods continue to flow. Maritime has been, I would say, a resilient sector in 2020, right? I think many of the shipping lines and partners have ensured that goods actually flow across the globe, whether it's for medical purposes, whether it's for us like staying at home, COVID, and start buying a lot more things, or renovation, furnitures. I think we have seen. Likewise for the bulk carriers, the tankers, the dry bulks, many of these goods continue to flow. And thank you so much to the industry for helping to make maritime a core player in this time in the supply chain. Can't say so much about the aviation, but I think we need to now look at how aviation and maritime could really interplay, intermodal. I think that will be something that we can help each other sector to make the supply chain more robust. And many of these, I think in 2020, we also see a lot of digitalization taking place within the maritime, outside the maritime, in many other sectors. And in Singapore, I think what we are doing, very heartened to see many players, even like this forum itself, looking at the various digitalization initiatives. And we're talking about this data and data exchanges, data standards. These are also the common goal in which a regulator like MPA here is also very interested and keen to support the industry with. On the top row, you will see that there are many of these, and it all also talk about data standards. So you have we kind of like have gotten the like-minded partners in July this 2020 to come together to look at port clearance data standards as a form of API, because as vessels comes into Singapore, they have to do port clearance, right? And if instead of just keying into portal, even though you have single window, the next lap is about if there is a system-to-system integration that you already have the data, then just send it across to the system. But we also reckon that it cannot be just for Singapore. It has to be an international effort, and therefore if every port authorities are also embracing this idea about system-to-system linkages for port clearances, then there will be greater efficiency, because these data then can be used for your subsequent processing for just-in-time operation or many other type of transaction. So the first DigitalOcean initiative was to lobby like the likes of the port. So we have PSA, we have platform players like TradeLens, GSBN, we have port authorities. So we have Port of Rotterdam to come together to discuss how do we formulate this API following the IMO data standards. So let's not reinvent the wheel. If there's already a standards, we adopt it, but customize, standardize the various views. And there are ongoing technical teams. We hope to have the API in first or second quarter of this year, so that then we can work with industry partners. Then we also noted that financing, payment, banks transactions is also an issue facing Maritime, and therefore we have partners going to the different banks, knocking on the door, and says that we want to link up to the banks, but the banks, unfamiliar with Maritime, unfamiliar with the startup, will often hesitate. So we take the lead and ask, why not let's partner under a MOU, and then from there we can kind of like bring the startup, the community, and dialogue with the banks, so that the banks can now feel more comfortable about, oh, this is my self-API, what are the challenges that we face in the Maritime? It could be bunkering, it could be payment related, and let's do the facilitation there. The third box there is the bill of lading. So I think that will be a very exciting area in which for Singapore, we are going through the revision of our Electronic Transaction Act. The Act itself will then provide more legal certainty for transferable records in digital form. It means that then therefore it can be recognized, can be arbitrated in Singapore, and therefore the next step is really to get the lawyers, the banks to recognize such legal certainty, supported by solution providers, producing data that you can exchange between shippers, the port, the shipping lines, the banks, the financier, and that will actually ease. And we have heard a lot, even DCSA has done a study looking at the inefficiency of the bill of lading, and that's where we can play our part from a regulator point of view, supporting it with legal certainty, right, from the Act perspective. Yeah. All right, so I think just wanted to cite these examples. You see there many. If I can talk for hours on just one slide, but I will move on. And on the right-hand side, you see that there is a Maritime Digitalisation Playbook. And I will inform why, we have... So why do we pushing so hard in terms of digitalization? Very simple reason, because I know that the industry yourself are already looking into many of these aspects of digitalization. And many of the companies out there, today's audience virtually, also are looking into this digitalization effort. We had worked with SSA, IMDA, a sister agency in Singapore, pushing digitalization, and BCG, and they quoted all these great examples of why companies and research shows that digital pays off. Right? So I won't be belaying the point to the converted. But it's to, whenever whoever in the virtual audience, when you get the slides, you can read it through and you can convince yourself why digitalization is important. And it's not only important in maritime, it's actually every sector is changing. Every sector, I think even in Singapore, when we have our COVID and we have lockdown, you can see a spike in terms of electronic payment. You can see a spike in electronic ordering, all the Grab foods, and all the deliveries, even as simple as virtual meetings. Whoever will buy the shares of all these companies, now maybe you are rich, because it just people see the benefits of using all this digital. In the past, it is a good to have, but in last year, it became a necessity. We need to have this so that we can have contactless operation. We need to have this so that business can continue. We need to have this so that our colleagues can work from home but can continue to transact. So the impetus becomes so real. As we said that what used to be a 5-year plan in 2020 has just brought it down to a 5 months plan, right? So when we know all this, and I think for foresight of SSA, industry partners, MP, and together with our MPA, we actually saw that as we push for digitalization, one of the cornerstone is how do we have the industry do it in a proper way? Because companies might be, as Peter say, many buzzword about digitalization, and if you do not do it properly, then the return on investment, and if you see that the return to your productivity, efficiency is not so great, then you may have second thoughts about this whole initiatives. So we wanted to support the industry with a digitalization playbook so that companies can then take a look at where they should focus their digitalization effort. So this is a acceleration index. It's just a framework. I'm sure there are many, many good frameworks out there, but we just adopt one to kickstart this whole process. There's 33 dimensions here. Essentially, is to look at your whole ambition, your vision, how you operate, and then where are your enablers. And where you operate, you want to see whether you want to put digitalization as a focus for operation, or is it for customer fronting, or using digitalization as a new business. So there are many areas in which you, as a company, they need to decide where is that $1 of investment that you're going to put in. Where is that limited budget, limited time and resources that you're going to focus in your company's strategy such that it gives you the best return. And why this is also, when we were doing this digitalization playbook, we also polled the companies to encourage them to do this survey, because this is like a health check. It is like going to a clinic, take all your vital signs, measure all the vital signs and tells you where you are today, right? And this is the snapshots of the survey. If you look at it, this is how maybe it is not surprise to you that the bigger players have more resources. They would have more maturity in terms of the digital readiness compared to the medium to small size company. But you also will see that there are some companies who actually have more maturity in terms of digital maturity and readiness. So this is an effort that we co-create with industry, right? Together with SSA, IMDA, BCG. There will be a QR code at the end of the slide deck, so you can just scan it, download the playbook and have a look. Essentially, what we want to create is a dialogue, a discussion within your organization that you can discuss what are the areas of focus, what are the resources that you need, and what is the roadmap that you are laying out to fulfill this vision, right? So I think that's creating this discussion is important. And to support all this, we need to have our ecosystem players to come together to help. So this is the way that it is being structured, the framework, the checklist, the resource panel, and of course some good case studies for you to see how companies have adopted, or when they have a roadmap, what it means to them, in terms of going on this journey. All right, so the reviews by industries, in terms of this playbook and how it will be useful for them to create this dialogue in the companies or with their partners, with their stakeholders. And With the playbook launch and with the companies knowing that this is the playbook, it also takes more awareness, more lobbying, rallying call. So therefore, we have the MDP Ambassador Program to help us to share their personal experience about how they have gone through digitalization, what are the areas that they benefited, and how companies could actually also go on this journey. It is almost like a peer group support so that the companies can work with each other to understand what are the potential challenges they may face and how do they overcome in other companies. So Naku is here with us today, and he is one of our advocates for this, right? So besides the playbook, and we know this, what is the innovation process? So in Singapore, what every year we do is we will call upon companies, right, together to come up with challenge statements. So after identifying your visions and you have a roadmap that you want to take on, then the next stage is execution. How do you go about doing it? So if you have a challenge, your business unit may have a challenge. They keep coming to you and say, this is a problem, but only if I have a solution. It may be your operation, talking about the vessel operation or the fuel, decarb. It could be any areas. And in Singapore, I'm very encouraged to see that, like like EPS will have their own acceleration program. You have Rainmaking, who also have acceleration program. So there are many acceleration programs, incubation in ING as well. So that is fantastic. But if you want to come on board as a, just as an industry, if there are other, this is the first time that you are trying out and you want to go on board with an industry platform, then this is the process in which we do that every year. We call for challenges, any companies, free of charge, to come in, bring your partners, your colleagues within your company to come and state the challenge statements. With the challenge statement, then what we do is we lined up the solver communities, right? So we rally the research community, the startup community, and even Institute of Higher Learnings, the students, the internships. So we say, look, if you have all these challenge statements and these are the solver communities, can they actually work on your challenge? Work with your partners in your company and try out and see what are the solutions that come to you. It could be ideas, it could be POC, it could be maybe there is already a ready-made solution. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Or maybe some other companies would already have solved this challenge and they could come in and share with you. So what's the outcome if we can do that right? And we will have some partnership. We will continue to have this partnership to catalyze industry capabilities. Obviously, Singapore being a major transshipment hub is also the port for many of our bulk carriers, our tankers. This is the place where we need to improve the whole efficiency, right? So in the top, you see all the ports operation efficiencies program that we have with them in terms of research, in terms of startup, in terms of manpower development. On the bottom in 2020 is where we actually respond to the COVID, and we say that if technology and COVID challenges can have a dialogue, what would it be like? And therefore we call out to the industry to come up with COVID challenges that you are facing in your company, and then the tech players and the solution providers who can come in to solve. And this, I must say, that is not necessarily to be tech players within Maritime. It could be a health tech providers. It could be someone who is running the clinic systems. It could be finance systems that actually can come in to help our Maritime to introduce new ideas. So that's where we have for 3 areas in terms of the telemedicine for our seafarers, contactless operation, and remote survey and inspection. So some of these areas. These are industry challenges that we put forth, but there's also another angle in which we drive from the technology. So as we manage the COVID situation. At the same time, what is the midterm type of capabilities that we need in our maritime? So things like 3D printing, vessels, ships supplies, channeling, or products. So these are areas in which we want to be able to lobby the industry together. If there is enough demand, then what needs to be done to catalyze this development? And this is all supported also with R&D capabilities. So you know that in Singapore we have 4 centers of research to help industries to look at the port operation, autonomous vessel, decarbonization, and safety. So we'll continue to invest in all these R&D capabilities and work, and the research capabilities then can be translated into companies' capabilities as well. And Paul is here. We will work with like-minded partners to continue to have exchange. Because researchers in different parts of the world can actually come together, synergize, and work together on joint projects. Startup is a big area that we are focusing on. Given this startup could be from talents from different parts of the ecosystem within and outside maritime coming in. The last Smart Port Challenge, we have a very veteran, 15-year or more consultant who actually decided that he wants to create a startup, look at documentation or risk assessment, and I think those are fantastic ideas. Then we have engineers who actually who look at in NUS who started underwater vessels or hull inspection type of solution. So I think, and we welcome, and every year when we do this Smart Port Challenge, we invite the global startup to participate, and it's always more than 50% of the proposal that comes in are from overseas, right? And we welcome the international startup to participate in this ecosystem. Among all this, I think the most important is about our leadership. Our leadership in the community, our leadership virtually, our virtual audience, many leaders are among you as well who are pushing for digitalization. At the end, you are the advocates within the company who will be the voice for digitalization and sound off ideas, and push for your operation or your business colleague to try out a different way of doing things. So we have the CDO network, and as well as the CHRO network, right, which is to bring the innovators as well as the HR practitioners and leaders to come together to exchange views, because in the whole journey of digitalization, you need these 2 key people in the company to in the meetings, in the board meetings, in the management meeting, to sound off the possibility and also to the advocate. I would have to say last year in 2020, crew change is one of the biggest topic that we have to grapple with, both in Singapore and internationally, right? And that is why we also, we have set up in Singapore as to be an international effort for, we call it the SG Star Fund, which is really to use this initiative led by SSA to push what can we do more about crew change. So we come out with the guideline, the protocol for crew change, a safe bubble wrap such that they can be safely signed on for vessels. At the same time, we want to have a best practices for holding facilities, and then the fund will actually fund, so no cost to the companies. They will kind of accreditate or certify each of these facilities in the crew countries, so that with the crew country in Philippines are adhering to these practices, then there are higher chance that when the crew goes through the 14-day quarantine, take the PCR test, they fly off to Singapore for crew change, we are maintaining the safety of our crew, right? So that is the practices that we are doing here. Then we also start to look at to help our crew, are there trials for digital solutions that can help our crew? So simple stuff like the type of the wearables that they can wear during the quarantine time, so that if the vital signs is not so right, or they can be alerted, or if they step out and commingle, actually the agents could actually also be alerted. So some of this, and we have very thankful that we have so many support from our international organization. We also have gotten support from the other port authorities. All right, and this is a wonderful event, and every year we have Singapore Maritime Week in April. It's going to be a challenging year again. Last year we postponed because of the COVID. This year we have to do it and do it well, but it could, so many things to learn from this conference as well, and we'll see whether we can continue to push ahead in terms of these areas that we talk about. So this is the QR code for the Maritime playbook. So please download it, read it, and if you have feedback, please let us know. We have our ambassador here, Puneet, is also one of our ambassadors. So if there's a need to engage companies, share, I'm sure the ambassador will be more than happy to do that. All right. Thank you so much, and have a safe and healthy year ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Kenneth. May I ask you to stay on the stage for a little while in case we have some questions and answers? And first of all, thanks for your inspiring speech. It's good to see that the world is still moving and that you have lots of ideas how we mingle within this very restrained space. And we are all here to help you. And we appreciate all the support that you give. And if I may kick off with a question, because I think that is something that has to do with the buzzword blockchain, but also with what you just mentioned on the crew or on the exposed maritime personnel here. I think this is a situation evolving, and nobody, probably even you, don't know exactly what this will be. We have people being vaccinated now. Without wanting to put you down on this, but nail you on this, but can you foresee, if people have a vaccination, what will be the change for them in terms of vessel visits and things like that? Is there anything that you can already talk about to help us plan?
Yeah, well, I'm not a medical expert or ops, but I will attend on this. The whole intent of, obviously, for many countries is if you can try to get the vaccination program going, it will safeguard the crew and also the people who are interacting with them as well as their families, right? So in Singapore, what we have do is we have urged and encouraged the onshore personnel who visits the vessels first to take contactless operation, right? So if you have contactless operation, it lower the risk. The second is we encourage them to do vaccination, right? So we have started on Monday. You must have seen the press. We have already, lined up, I think 10 to 30,000 of vaccination, so that the crew who are visiting and frequent, and you have already vaccinated, you can come and share. They will be protected. But the science behind that vaccination, we're still studying, right? The medicals. Because after you vaccinate doesn't mean you can take off your mask and you can party. I'm not too sure, but that are the precautions we continue to have, right? Then, before the vaccination, we already also instilled two other measures. One is the weekly testing, the RRT, right? The testing will help the onshore personnel to detect if they have been contracted with the virus sooner. So it's now every 7 days. It's a regime of 7 days. We are now discussing if you have vaccination, is it possible that we can then extend that testing period so that you don't have to do it every 7 days? So that is in discussion. Then there is when we come into the hotel this morning, we have safe entry. Then now is also a safe entry for vessels, for maritime, so that as people go out on board the vessels or onto the launches, we want to actually encourage companies, or actually mandate the companies to, any crew, to really do the safe entry, so that if there's a contact tracing, we know who to contact in the shortest possible time, so that we can protect everyone else in the community. And that is done on the premise that really the port, the maritime workers are very important workers, because the whole of COVID, we have seen that we need every one of us to be safe, to make sure that people and the goods are being flowed safely as well. So I think these are things that we are doing it as well. Then there are also digital solutions who now talk about you know, if you have PCR tests, you have vaccination test results, can you be online onto a digital form, so that you can then show to the different authority or validation. So now we are trying to see if we can work, you know, the whole supply, the whole value chain, right? Whether it's the airport, whether at the immigration, how do you grapple with these issues such that people who have these certificates can be shown digitally across. So I think, you know, COVID and the crew change is one issue, very much like such an important issue that everyone have to work together and think of solutions to safeguard them. So I think that, but in the process, we have to grapple with the process, we have to grapple with who are the stakeholders to bring in. It's almost like a very big digitalization initiative. Yeah. Thank you, Peter.
Can I follow up with the second question? We are also involved with you with the so-called travel bubble. We started with a discussion, Manila to Singapore, where we have a true blockchain application eventually, where we have crew data and passport data, plus test data, maybe in future vaccination data. And I think your initiative, you mentioned it, but can you say something about the timing and whether there's a proof of concept already on the way, so that probably more companies can benefit from that in the near future?
Yeah. So the trial for the wearables is immediate company, and the reason is because company can already adopt it for their crew. For the PCR tests and all the digital data, as I mentioned, we see it as actually multiple other stakeholders that you need to come on board, right? You have the immigration, you got airport, you got airlines, and therefore by saying that there is one quickly, I think that's not our preference. Our preference will be to say, what is that data standard that we are looking for? Because if you have data standards on your QR tests, vaccination tests, or crew data, if that standard is out, then there may be many solutions, so that the companies then have a better choice of, all right, based on my needs, I can actually adopt any of these solutions. What we are trying to see there is to have that standard and have the solution providers coming forward. But now we are happy to, if there's shipping lines and there is a tech solution that wants to do the trial, we are happy to try to facilitate that. But we can't pinpoint or mandate a particular solution, because we want to make sure that it's always an open solution. And I know this, you know, there's the balance, right, between agility, you want to have quickly a solution, but at the same time you want to have standards, and to develop standards it takes time. So that is the balance that we have to grapple with every day. Yeah.
I hope that in this room there's more companies who are willing to embark on that journey, and I know one already. So yes, please.
I had a question for you. I have seen a lot more companies already starting to accelerate the digitalization, mostly because of COVID reasons, which is good. But one of the things I wanted to check with you, Kenneth, was how can MPA help in making sure that the momentum is not lost as such? This is also playing into a little bit. I've got Nakul and others as digital playbook ambassadors. And if these stories can be captured, I think it's very difficult for companies to share with each other on one-on-one basis because of various reasons. If they actually do report or share this with MPA, MPA can become a good conduit to try and make sure that the stories are, in a redacted form, at least shared by the community, and that can be keeping the momentum going. Because I have a feeling that as things go back to the old ways, it is very easy for companies to kind of deprioritize digitalization again. So that was one of the things I wanted to mention. Yeah.
Thank you, Puneet. Yes, and indeed it's important enablers to keep the momentum going. If if I know my partners, my stakeholders keep talking about the new way of doing things with enabled by technology, it kind of spur everyone on. And what we need to do, as you rightly say, is how do we propagate even more success cases, and we welcome anyone who would want to work with us to propagate more of these cases. And forums such as Smart Maritime Network is also great because we have both physical, virtual audiences who might already have seen some of this technology, how they have done it, and then how do you share, right? Now it is, we have to tap on the advantage of a virtual world now to see how do you collate it in the most simple way, and then how to manage the content, right? I think those are very good ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, in the interest of time, we have a mixed event, so this is why we're depending very much on keeping to the schedule. Yeah, Maite.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Ken, and it's a pleasure to be here, finally physical. I just want to make a comment and to know your thoughts about collaboration. I think it's very important that the shipping industry get together and collaborate even more. BIMCO as such, we are involved in a lot of projects, and from bill of lading to creating international ID for the crew, for the seafarer. And it's something that we are doing at an international level. So it will be great to see how MPA can have an inclusion to have, companies internationally to collaborate, even based in Singapore or elsewhere, to work together in that front.
Thank you, Martha. And definitely, BIMCO has been a supporter also of SG Star Fund. And I think it is right that it may be the limitation of outreach is almost like what would be the best platform to have this whole engagement going. And to be honest, that is why a face-to-face meeting, like this is so much wonderful, right? Because you come up to one person and say, hey, I'm doing this, and when I'm sharing this, thoughts come to your ideas come to the mind, and after this, let's talk a bit more. I think virtually, our audience, we just need to have a means of putting out your thoughts, and then put out your email, and then we try to get in touch with you, have set up. Sorry, if you cannot fly and I cannot fly, let's set up virtual meetings to try to get this discussion going as well. Yeah. But if anyone has a very good idea about how to have, I'm sure we have Microsoft, you have Zoom, you have many platforms that encourage sharing of knowledge, cases, discussion. Yeah, sometimes it's a bit of information overload, and how do you decipher that creeps things? Yeah, so I think we'll continue to work on that, and please reach out to us, and we're happy to try to facilitate this collaboration, both locally as well as overseas. I mean, to many of the audiences out there today as well,
Yeah, we have 110 participants logged in now, also virtually, I understand, or even more now. So that's Singapore. That's great. But I would like to close off the question and answer session with a question from the digital space. Tim.
Yes. A question from the virtual audience. Kenneth, the Maritime Digitalisation playbook, could you update or comment on how it was updated given the events of 2020? And what MPA's mechanism for updating the playbook as new technologies emerge?
Thank you. Yeah, so the way we want to update the playbook is, as we roll out the playbook, companies adopt it and then give the inputs to refine the playbook. It's almost like a recipe book, right? And if someone says that you want to cook a dish and these are the ingredients you need and this is the way, let's do it. But you don't want to, you want to balance between frequent changes and then everyone get confused. But you don't want to be laggard in terms of the newest update in terms of the recipe. So what we hope to do is really companies adopting the playbook, look at the 33 dimension, find whether the way to prioritize the area of digitalization works for you. How do you do the dialogue within a company? How do you exchange information with your partners? These are very important aspects. Then the enablers itself, whether it's technology, blockchain, tomorrow is AI, and many of these are technologies which we think that are very important. But what is even more important is to get that movement within your company going. So the playbook is focusing on getting that process going within a company. Because once you can identify your area of focus and the investment that you want to put, when you come up with the various challenge statements, the solver community can come to you and come to us with different type of technology that can solve. I mean, like we have seen how cleaning using frequencies to clean up particles and all. It's like, wow, all along we have been scraping, carpeting, many type of technology, but there can be another type of technology that comes to solve to your surprise. So we think that the digitalization playbook needs to be updated periodically as we go on. Let's get started, get the feedback in, and then if everyone thinks that, oh, it's already outdated, we need a version 2.0, let's co-create the version 2.0, and then we again share it with the rest of the whole international maritime. I think it's not just only for Singapore. Please, if we have our virtual audience, spread the word, get this going, because companies just need to have a starting point, a guidebook, a recipe book. Try the dish, and if you like it, tell us. And if you know the better way of improving the dish, let us know too.